Hey Rob, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Thank you so much for being with us. I'm doing great because I finally tracked you down.
Thanks for talking to me today, and thanks for helping us tell our story.
Well, I did see your story. I did see Revolution. Saw it a couple of months ago. I bought the CD or the DVD. I showed it to my family, and I have been deeply immersed in the issues that are going on around the world. And I try to explain this to my family what's going on. And I had difficulty articulating it. So I put it on. My 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, and my husband sat and watched it. It was so beautiful. The cinematography was beautiful. The issues were jaw dropping. And finally, at the end of the film, my daughters both said, "We've got to do something." And I said yes. And the first thing one of my daughters said was, "You know what? We don't need to buy all this stuff. We don't need all this stuff." And I said, "Yes. Now tell your friends we don't need all this stuff." And my husband said, "You need to get Rob Stewart on your summit." So here we are.
Amazing. I like that story.
Well, actually, I hunted you down, but I didn't really. I got Jonah Bryson, who's also on the summit. I got him to hunt you down.
Yep. Yeah, he's got a direct line to me for sure.
Most people know you because of Sharkwater. How did you get even into doing Sharkwater?
I started out as a wildlife photographer, and I had the best job in the world. I specialized in sharks, tropical reefs, endangered little known species, and ever since I was a kid, my favorite animals to photograph were sharks. But everywhere I went as a wildlife photographer, sharks were getting destroyed. And I quickly found out shark populations dropped 90%, and nobody really noticed, and nobody was fighting for sharks. So I knew I had to bring that message to the world, and my efforts to get that message out through magazine articles and newspapers wasn't effective. So I kind of believed that if I could show the public my impression of sharks, counter to Jaws, and dispel the myths of sharks as menacing predators to people, that maybe people would want to fight for sharks' protection like they fight for pandas, elephants, and bears.
Yeah. And it was so well received. I mean, you've got how many awards? At least 20 awards for that film.
50
It's
something.
really
Yeah.
wow. Wow. So how did you decide to move on to do Revolution after having this incredible experience with Sharkwater?
By the time we were done releasing Sharkwater, we got to travel to some of the most incredible film festivals, environmental conferences. We met world leaders and the top scientists, and they said, "What you're doing with sharks is cool, but you're missing the point. We're going to lose everything, not just sharks." And they cited studies that predicted the end of the world's fisheries by the middle of the century, the loss of all the world's rainforests, the loss of our oxygen from phytoplankton in the oceans. And it became pretty clear to me that conservation had changed, that it wasn't about hugging trees and saving sharks and pandas, it was saving humans. And so I figured I needed to bring this message to the public, and that maybe by positioning the environmental movement as save the humans, that maybe people would fight for their own survival.
Yeah, I think people are still having difficulty connecting the dots. It's like we're always, going to help the shark or help them, but we don't really understand that it's just a reflection of what we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah, and that's why we made Revolution, because there's a lot of issues going on the planet right now, and the ones that are in the media most often aren't really the major problems. So there's a lot of misperceptions, and I think the public needed the reality, and we needed to give it to them in entertainment so that they weren't taking medicine. And so Revolution is kind of an adventure to bring people on the journey of life so they understand where we've come from, where we're going, how life gives us our food, our water, and our air, and that there's this massive movement underway that's leading the revolution to save us.
Well, it's very palatable to how you present this. My kids saw it and they got it, and they watched the whole thing, which is a lot to be said for your film. My children have a very short attention span. But what are the issues that you highlight that you believe are the most important that we're not really connecting with?
The biggest issue on the planet right now is ocean acidification, which was only discovered maybe 8, 10 years ago. And the The problem with ocean acidification is that it's far more grave than any of our climate change woes. Climate change is a symptom of the problem, not the problem itself. Climate change is like the cough when you're sick. And by us focusing on climate change, we're really dealing with a symptom. And if we solve climate change, we'll still have no fish, no food, no reefs, and no rainforests, and live in a hugely degraded world. Ocean acidification is the absorption of carbon dioxide into the oceans, which changes the ocean chemistry. And the oceans have taken up an enormous amount of carbon dioxide since the Industrial Revolution, which has made the oceans 30% more acidic. And in a more acidic environment, any animal that builds skeletons or shells can't form. And that includes coral reefs, that includes fish, and phytoplankton, which is at least half of the oxygen in the air that we breathe. So the general public is largely unaware of the biggest environmental issue on the planet right now that has the potential to kind of reset life on Earth.
This is something that we need to get something done about, obviously. But what do we do? What do we do?
The biggest impediment to us achieving a world that works is education. Until the public understands what's actually going on out there, our morals and our humanity doesn't engage. But once we understand the problem, then we reach for different products. We vote for different governments and we engage in different activities, and that changes the world profoundly. It's our humanity, our morals, our feelings that can guide us to a world that works, and that's what's happened in the past in every circumstance. Right now, we aren't engaging our humanity because we have no idea. So the most important ingredient in this revolution is education. Tell your friends and your family. The greatest predictor of our behavior is the expectations of our peers. So once we enroll our friends and family and they understand the problem, then we'll be guiding ourselves to a world that works.
This totally plugs into what we're discovering on this summit, is that our industry is supposed to be in the education industry, and what we're in is the certifying industry. We just certify people. We don't actually educate them about the ecosystems that they're going into. And we are actually, many of us are ocean illiterate. We do not understand how these systems work. And so we cannot tell our customers, tell our peers, tell our communities how these things work. And so if we don't know what's going on, how are we possibly going to shift this world? And we're right in it. We're right in the ocean, and we don't get what's going on. So what you're saying totally matches up with what the scientists are saying and what some of the certification agencies are saying, that we need to actually start to educate people on the issues that we are facing. But here's the thing. Is it bad for business?
The crisis we face is potentially not just bad for business, it's bad for everything. Like, we're at a tipping point right now where our decisions within our lifetime affect whether future generations live in lack and starvation and crisis or not. And every time humanity's been put in this situation in the past, we've ended up fighting each other over what remains, and in many instances eating each other. So while we consider, the potential future we're colliding with, we've got to make every possible instance an opportunity to educate and bring our friends and our family with us. The people that actually understand sharks are people that have met them underwater. People that have met sharks underwater aren't afraid of them. And people changing their perceptions of sharks as menacing predators of people has really helped humanity go to bat to fight for these animals. So I think the opportunity is in taking people underwater, showing them the majesty of this world, and by actually educating them on the reality of this situation, that the oceans are the birthplace of life on Earth. Life evolved first in the oceans. The oceans are 90% of the habitable space on the planet, 80% of life on Earth, 3.7 billion years. People that go underwater, their mind is going to be blown, even if they're seeing a degraded coral reef or if they're seeing a world that doesn't have the life in it that it had before. So I really think educating people and helping them understand ecosystems, species, and our role on this planet and our place in it is really going to be good for the dive industry business.
I agree with you. I keep telling people we are perfectly positioned to be the messengers. We have such a tremendous opportunity to impact not just our businesses by teaching, but also by being the messengers that tell people what's going on so that we can do something about it. But my concern is that we are still operating business as usual, even though we're just on this precarious tipping point. How do we get people's attention that we need to act now? What do we do?
Show people revolution.
Yes.
That's why we made the movie, because all this information has been out there for years. It's just the public's not taking it. And to confront a lot of these problems might mean as an adult that you have to confront a previously consumptive life or an investment that's not good for the planet, or you've been making products at your company that destroy the world we depend on for survival. So there's a resistance to anyone engaging in this discussion in many ways. So we tried to bait and switch in a little bit. Come watch this documentary, see some of the coolest species on the planet, go on an adventure, and while you're doing that, the information has to change you in some way. It has to affect your decisions. And the more people that understand the problem, the more, chances we have of getting, a critical few percent of those that are educated that actually take a stand on and do something about it.
I want to ask you, you have been busy, launching your movie all over the place. And do you find there's any resistance to going to see your movie because people are afraid they're going to see bad things? Do you find that happening?
Yeah. People resist going to see Revolution because they're concerned it's going to be a downer. People generally seem to be living lives of struggle right now anyways, where there's not enough money, there's not enough time, there's not enough happiness, so to go and engage in something that might make them feel a little worse about themselves or spur them into action, people are resistant to. But the reality is radically different. Like, in the face of this crisis, we have the greatest opportunity in history to do something right, to right the wrongs, to be a hero, to save ecosystems, to create a world that's beautiful. So I think as we progress, more and more people are going to understand that this knowledge is essential to be a 21st century human.
How did you find the courage to take on this huge project? Because it is truly sweeping. How did you do that?
I don't know that I really took on any courage in it. It was just after making Sharkwater and having government policy change and the public respond to sharks, and now there's shark conservation groups everywhere, it taught me we have the power to change the world, and that also humanity's good and we'll do the right thing if we know what's going on. And in the face of, this massive catastrophe, I couldn't go and make a movie on tigers or something. I had to make a movie on saving us, the big issue. So it was a big challenge, but always by going up against these challenges, you're forced to grow and become a better person in the process.
You went to the climate change conference in Cancun, and that was covered in your movie. And you met a young lad named Felix. I can't remember his last name. He was from
Beiner.
Yes, and he was from Germany, and he decided for a school project that he was going to encourage every country in the world to plant 1 million trees. Mm-hmm. And you interviewed him, and he was just incredible, just an incredibly inspiring kid. And you said, if we had a few more of those kids whipping around here, we'd be good to go. And so I want to know how you are tapping into the kids to get them to watch this film, and what kind of response you're getting.
Every revolution in the past was led by the people most directly influenced by the atrocity. So women had to hit the streets for equal rights. The civil rights movement, the same thing, people oppressed. And right now, it's kids' future that's at stake. And they're going to be the ones that lead this revolution. If you tell someone who's 60 that by the middle of the century we're in serious trouble, they might not be here. But someone that's younger is going to actually understand that that's the world they're headed towards. And they don't have to rationalize anything in their lives. Kids just get it right away. And like Felix and the other kids in Revolution tell you, it's really easy. It's not difficult. We're destroying the world we depend on for survival. We got to do something about it. So let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm with you there. Let's do it. So how in our industry can we start to move, redirect the Titanic, right? That's how I feel, that we're headed for an iceberg, and we need to guide this planet out of harm's way. Where would somebody start? Let's say I run a dive operation, and I'm just going to say Belize, whatever, and it could be anywhere, Papua New Guinea, I don't know. Where would I start? I've been running business as usual, and now I'm faced with the reality, and so I'm thinking I need to do something about this. But it's so huge. Where would you suggest I start?
I would start with education. You have an opportunity to show all of your clients Revolution at virtually no cost to you. So download a copy of Revolution, show it to all your clients and your friends, get some DVDs, give it to them on day one of their scuba diving courses so they go home and they become even more fascinated with the underwater world you're about to introduce them to. Be watchful of your business practices as well. I mean, take a bit of an inventory and see how your company's doing, where you're buying products from, what they're made of, how they're moving around the world. Because every time we use money, we're directing an economy towards sustainability or towards destruction. And unless we know what's going on, we're not really going to be able to engage in that battle.
Right. The supply chain, looking at the supply chain and seeing how sustainable it is. And sometimes we come across some incredible surprises about our supply chain. And
the thing about the business opportunity is we're only going right now deeper into this problem, and people are only becoming more educated, more aware, more concerned, and laws are only going to be changing towards sustainability. We're going to be headed towards a world where it's illegal to pollute or to waste. So if you're a dive operator and you're thinking about making some wetsuits, why don't you make your wetsuits out of plastic from the ocean? Because eventually we're going to have to do that anyways. And you can help educate your community and your friends and be part of the curve that's going in the right direction. That's, using the world sustainably.
It's really interesting because in North America, we really don't see this. But if you're in the EU or in Asia, where those two areas, they are very involved in sustainability. The EU has all sorts of programs for this blue economy, encouraging a sustainable economy where it can hire people can make a livelihood, and it will not destroy the planet. But in North America, we have ignored this. And I can't understand why, other than it's just our ignorance, and policies just continuing to go business as usual. So how do we affect change here in North America?
North America has a couple of opportunities that have perpetuated the crisis, and one of those is space. Resources. We've had almost an infinite amount of space, an infinite amount of resources to plunder and to waste with, where Europe doesn't really have that luxury. So they've got to be a little bit more conservative. And in North America, the profit idea and the growth of businesses has been paramount, where I think in the future, if you're operating a business that doesn't benefit the world, the future ecosystems and species, you should have no place doing business, right? We're too far into that kind of trap to be entertaining businesses that just make money. In North America, I believe we're headed towards a world where we're, instead of just fighting against atrocities, we're trying to create a world that's amazing. And as dive operators, what would the world look like if we put the fish back? If we put the reefs back, if we brought the sharks back, this world would be amazing. So I think with North America's ambitions, that should be something that they focus on for sure. But it's up to the individual that owns a company, the individual that engages in that company. Ask your waiter, is this sustainable seafood? Where does it come from? How do you know it's sustainable? Ask your dive operator, what kinds of fuel they're using? Where do they get their products and their wetsuits from? And it's not until the consumers, particularly in a North American world, not until the consumers demand something different, are we going to be able to starve the corporations that are destructive. Because by the very system of a corporation, it's just going to give us what we're asking for. And as long as we're asking for the cheapest and the easiest, then we're going to get stuff that's destructive. But if we're asking for something that is made in a sustainable way or a way that benefits the world, then corporations will start giving us that stuff.
I looked on your website, your revolutionthemovie.com. I think that's it.
Revolutionmovie.com.
Revolutionmovie.com. And you had a whole bunch of resources. And it was, I don't know, how to start a revolution or what, I can't remember what the menu item was. And I went in there, and the other things that you mentioned that can help kickstart a revolution within your business and in the world were pretty straightforward things. I think one of the things you said was sign petitions. I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, why can't people sign petitions? I was just talking to Jose Palazzo, and he's created this whole movement to have the dive industry represented at the UN, at the High Seas Convention, and at the Climate Change Convention. And he's been at CITES, and he's been at the biodiversity conventions, and all these. They've taken this all over the place, and he strongly believes that petitions really work, and specifically petitions or declarations or whatever, a grouping of people who are in business actually have more impact than anything else. And I strongly believe that petitions, if we start sharing them like crazy, we could really make some incredible changes. But that's not the only thing you said. Tell me some of the other items that you have on your resources.
The thing is, people struggle with how to change the world, but they haven't tried yet. And I don't think changing the world is that difficult. We technically live in a democracy. The governments and politicians are our civil servants, not our masters. They're supposed to do what we ask them to do. So we just got to ask them and tell them what we want. And if we engage in them at a municipal level, a certain amount of queries at that level make something jump up a level in government. So get involved with your government. Start a conservation group. Support other conservation groups. Educate your friends and your family. Some of these problems haven't quite been solved yet. Some of them have. So, I think the most important thing is to just see this as an opportunity. It's not a huge negative. There's a lot of things that have gone wrong in the way we've designed this world, a lot of things that aren't working. And by confronting this problem, we're going to right a lot of those wrongs. And by confronting this problem, we create solutions in other areas in the world, like sanitation and hunger. If we bring ecosystems back, if we restore nature, we solve a lot of the problems we have on the planet. So the most important thing, just get involved.
Just jump in, step in.
Take a step.
I want to ask you, what is your project you're working on right now?
Right now, releasing Revolution and getting as many people as possible to see it. And then doing a book / TV series / mobile application online platform to change the world, to kind of get people on track towards a world that's beautiful for us and all species.
And how do you do that in an app? Just wondering.
You're gonna have to see it to believe it.
Okay. Okay.
And we're doing a seahorse love story based on the pygmy seahorse.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So I want to ask you finally, if people want to download your movie, where do they go? What do they do?
They can go to therevolutionmovie.com and download it there. It's also on Vimeo on demand.
Okay. And so there's no excuses, really. It's
there. It's easily available.
Yeah. And what would you say? Do you guys need any more support from us? How else can we help you from us here? We want to get your movie out to everybody. Is there anything else we can do?
Yeah, encourage people to show it to their friends, to have discussions, to get their dive clubs together, to watch this and say, okay, what do you guys want to do about it?
Yeah.
Our world is in jeopardy. Pick a cause, pick an ecosystem, pick a species, pick your best talent, fight for something. Show the movie. It's not about making money for us. Obviously, we just put Sharkwater on YouTube for free, so show people Sharkwater as well. Get involved in that battle.
Yeah. Well, we're in our hometown. We're going to be showing our movie at our community center for the region, and people are really excited about it. They want to see this, and it's going to be on the big screen. So we've already booked it. So it's
awesome.
Yeah. There's no reason we don't live. We're conveniently located near between two oceans, just like Colorado is. So it doesn't stop us from showing these kinds of movies all about the ocean. It's we're just going to do it. I've never done it before, but why not? We're just going to do it. We're just going to step in, just like you said. Yeah. Listen, Rob. Listen, thank you. I want to thank you again for spending some time with us. You have been so busy. You're just like Sylvia, actually. Sylvia Earle and Jean-Michel. I've interviewed Jean-Michel. I have not been able to track down Sylvia. I will track her down. I will hunt her down just like I hunted down you.
Yep, I believe you. You'll make it happen.
Okay. Listen, best of luck with your app. Let us know when it's available, and everybody go to. Tell us the website again.
TheRevolutionMovie.com.
And
you can also get to it via Sharkwater.com as well.
Okay, great. And there's also an educator's guide on that website as well.
Yep, there's a toolkit for curriculums, for teachers. There's 15 other videos that delve into the most important issues threatening humanity.
So there's
it's a whole toolkit.
Their whole toolkit, so there's no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Good luck.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks a lot.